just so we can share this with students who maybe wanted to attend and couldn't. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, we can start with introductions. My name is Emily Urshan. I am a senior here at UW-Platteville studying international studies. And I studied abroad in Seoul, South Korea for an academic year about 2 years ago now. And then Grace, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Grace, and I'm studying elementary education with a German minor and early childhood minor. And I did a semester-long program in Germany, the spring semester of 2018 or 19. It was a little bit ago. And hopefully we'll be going abroad again in the fall.
Ryan, if you want to go.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Ladd. I am a senior here at Platteville. I'm studying business administration. I'm studying business administration, and I have an emphasis in international business, and I'm going for minors in French and international studies. I studied in Fiji at the same time when Grace did. And then also this last winter semester, I did a virtual study abroad at the University of Darmstadt in Germany.
Everett, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Everett, and I'm majoring in, double majoring in accounting and biz ed finance. My study abroad program was the international marketing and leadership, which took place in Germany, and I did that over the summer of 2019. And then I also studied abroad in London, England, going over there for choir tour in the January of 2020. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to jump into the questions then. We all kind of said, but what was the length of your program, and would you recommend that length? Do you wish you stayed longer, shorter?
Sure, I can start. Like I said, I've done both. I spent the 6 month in Fiji, and 6 months is a really good amount of time because you're able to make those relationships and connect with people. But by the end, you're feeling a little bit homesick and ready to return. But then I also did the short-term study abroad. Obviously, that was online. I didn't make those same connections, but I did learn a lot in those 2 and 3 weeks. And obviously, the coursework there was a lot more rigorous because you're getting a whole class done within 3 weeks. But no matter which way you pick, obviously they're going to be very different. But you'll probably enjoy it either way. 6 months, I would personally recommend if you have the time and the finances for it, because you really just get involved in the culture with that way.
Yeah, speaking on the short term spectrum, that I was over in Germany for only 2 weeks, and it was a really congested 2 weeks where we did a whole bunch of stuff in it. So the 2 weeks being in Germany just kind of made me want more of seeing the country and being a part of the culture. And I guess that was a good like little taste of what Germany has to offer, even though it was like just the western part. I went into the south a little bit, but not much. So yeah, just getting a taste of that country, which is good for just a short-term thing. And then if you're just going abroad for one city, like I did for London, we were there for a week, and London for a week was good. I probably could have spent a little bit longer time, but I definitely would want to go back to Germany before London, probably, just to see more.
Okay. I guess I'll talk about mine. I'm asking questions, but I guess I'll also answer some questions too. So I went for a full year, and I really, really liked being there for the full year. a lot of my friends left at semester, and they all kind of wish they could stay longer. I think that by the second semester, I got really, really comfortable in Seoul, and I was able to travel around on my own some more and find more of the local spots and everything. But like everyone said, I think any length of time, whatever works for you, is better than nothing, I guess. Grace, did you have anything to add?
Not really. I kind of second what everyone has ever said, I guess. But I would say the longer the better. I was there for 4.5 months, and I could have definitely stayed the whole year. So kind of wish I would have.
All right. How did everyone choose your program? What kind of things did you look at when choosing where you wanted to go and what school and everything?
Well, I'll just start off real quick. I am looking at studying abroad this fall, and like my top criteria right now, being a senior, or super senior, I guess you can say, is that I have very specific credits that I need to take. Like I have a couple gen eds that I can just take wherever or like whatever pretty much. But I have like one or two classes that like are very, very specific. And if you're getting to the later stages of your college career, it might be pretty good to like sit down with your advisor or something and be like, these are the classes that I can take abroad that will count towards my major. So that's been a really big driving force for my search. The other portion of it is that I just wanted to go to Germany because I'm German. So I just wanted to see like what the culture was about, and just trying to understand my heritage a little bit more. So yeah.
I can go next. I picked Fiji mostly because, well, with a minor in French, I was looking at studying abroad in France. But I started looking and I didn't really have the finances for that. So I started looking around and I did it early. So I was able to take gen eds really wherever I went. And I noticed that Fiji was one of our cheapest programs. It came out to be over the entire semester, it came out to be just a little bit more than Platteville. So add the flight onto that. And it was, I mean, for staying in Fiji for 6 months, I got my bang for my buck. So that was the main driving force behind it. And then of course, for the rest of my life, I'm able to say I went to Fiji. Like who has that story? But even if you go in Europe, anywhere, like I said, you're going to be happy.
All right. Did you have to learn your host country's language? Were a lot of your classes in English? Was there any issues with the language barrier? I guess I can start this one. For me,
I can start on this one.
okay. Oh, sorry. For me, I went to Korea. I did not know any Korean before going there. All of my offered classes were in English. There were some instances with some of the older generation that I couldn't really communicate with, but you can get a lot said through hand gestures. So, and then Grace, if you wanted to go, sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good. In my program, it also was not a requirement at all to speak even a single word of German. I just happened to because of my minor, and they had all different levels of classes there. I actually took an education course and a gen ed course in English, and then I had my German language course. But I went with people who had no clue of anything, so definitely not a requirement, but
When I was in Fiji, obviously they spoke English there. They did have some older people who don't speak the best English, but like Emily said, with just nodding at something or a simple hand gesture at a store or something, you can get your point across really easily. And then we also do a required cultural course while we're there. So when I studied abroad for Germany, that consisted of a 1 credit German class that I was able to take. So I learned a little bit through there. And as you spend more time there, you're able to like kind of pick it up and slowly learn it. And then in Fiji as well, I took Intro to Fijian. So people every day would speak English, but if I wanted to, I could say, introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Ryan in Fijian. And I made a lot of friends that way by people not expecting me to speak Fijian or even German at that point.
Okay, so I guess I'll keep asking questions about classes. What were some of the like most interesting classes you took while abroad?
I can start with this one too. Um, like I said, I took
I
Intro to
actually
Fijian.
took
Sorry. I took Intro to Fijian, which was one of the most unique languages in the world. So it was a lot of fun being able to learn that. And then I also took Intro to Tourism, which is a class that transferred back as a gen ed here in Platteville. So that was a lot of fun. Me and my professor were really good friends. It actually opened up kind of a whole hospitality sector in my life that I never really knew existed, and something that I can look forward to like for the rest of my life.
Grace, did you want to talk about that too?
Sure. Sorry, my internet's really bad, so I think it probably seems like I'm interrupting everybody because it's lagging. But I kind of already touched on the course I took, but one of my favorites was a philosophy of time class, which was really interesting, and I was not expecting to take that.
Everett, did you want to talk about any fun classes?
So the kind of fun thing that I really actually enjoyed when I went over to Germany, that they had 2 set classes that we were going to be taking. They were just like, here, we're going to spend a week in the management sector and then a week in the leadership sector. And they transferred over into the business admin major. So I really enjoyed like learning the aspects of like management and leadership in Germany. So because it's different how they set everything up, how businesses are run, and how they essentially think is completely different from how the US thinks. And it was really interesting to see that perspective. So just overall, like the 2 weeks, just learning the ins and outs sort of a thing with business was really, really interesting. And also we have 2 questions in the,
Yeah, so I'll answer this one quick too.
Okay.
I took some fun classes. I took a Korean tea ceremony and world tea culture class. So I just got to go drink tea every day. I also took a South Korean US relations class, which was a lot of fun. And then we can go to the questions in the chat. So how long did it take to adjust to the time difference, housing and meals? I guess we can like answer those each individually first.
yeah, sorry, Ryan, I saw your unmute going. So Germany is, Grace can abide by this too, but Germany is pretty far away, as most of these other places are too. So the difference was, I believe, 13 hours, I think it was. So, but the time difference, it took me, I'm gonna be blunt, like the first day was just not good being there. After like sleeping or like somewhat sleeping and then waking up, and then I just didn't know where I was. I remember that feeling where I just had no idea. But the second day and third day like gradually got better, and then definitely like the fourth day I was like normal. So like 3 or 4, just depending on the person. And then I don't know if I should keep going, but Ryan, you can go.
Okay. Fiji was, I believe, 8. I think Germany is 6, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Depends on
Germany,
the time of year. I think it's like
okay,
7.
6 or 7. Okay. Um,
yeah.
for me, it did take a long time, especially with that flight to Fiji. It was a long time. If I remember right, it took me about, with layovers and everything, it took me about 12, 13 hours to get there. Um, so it takes time to adjust with the jet lag, but obviously you take your first few days a couple slow, or first few couple days pretty slow. If you go to one of our programs that has an education abroad advisor on site, they're nice enough to usually pick you up from the airport, kind of show you around the surrounding area. They understand because they've done that flight before and that it is not easy and that it's the first time you're projected into this culture. So it's going to take some getting used to. But I feel pretty comfortable after probably a month is where you get that, well, okay, I feel like I belong here. I understand why people do it this way. I understand what they think. And the meals, it's kind of just the cuisine. I mean, whether we're eating burgers or in Fiji, it's a lot of Chinese food. So I was used to it here from the US, but it would just, I mean, it's a little bit different, but it's something that I welcomed with open arms.
Um, okay, so you can go next.
I was just gonna say for me, it really didn't take that long to get over the time difference for some reason. The first time I went to Germany was the same. It only took me a couple nights to actually feel like normal. Um, but I was traveling for about 30 hours because I was stranded in Iceland and then I ended up in Copenhagen where I wasn't supposed to be. And it was a whole thing. But um, the biggest tip that I got before I left, which was definitely my favorite, was don't go to sleep unless it's nighttime there, even if you're tired, because it kind of just messes up the whole thing otherwise. So I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah, for Korea, it was a 16-hour flight, and when I got there, it was a 14-hour time difference from here. And then when our time switches here, like when we had the time change, then it became a 15-hour time difference. So that kind of messed when I like could talk to my mom and stuff here. Um, but like Grace said, I tried my first day not to go to sleep until it was nighttime. And then when I first got there, they had our orientation the very next day. So they like made us stay awake all day, and that really, really helped. Um, and then I think some of you guys talked about housing maybe a little bit, but if anyone wants to talk about that, how it's different from here at all.
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is that I feel very dumb because I said 13-hour difference, but then I was like, oh, I think it was an 11 or 13-hour flight for me. And that makes more sense when I was thinking about it. But yeah, for housing
okay.
for me for the short term, I had essentially like a hotel because it was like a very short amount of time. It's definitely going to be a lot different than other how other people housed. But for me, I basically stayed in a single hotel room where it was one bed, like a little desk area, and then the bathroom consisted of the shower, the toilet, and the sink. So it was like pretty good setup. Um, but it was pretty cramped because in Europe things are pretty closer together. Um, and yeah, I liked it. I don't need a lot of space to basically. I just need the bed and the bathroom, and I'm fine. Um, so just like picture like your living room. I'm guessing like a lot of living rooms are about the same for me. Um, and like cut out a little portion of it being the bathroom, and then the rest is the bedroom, and that's about the size that I was living in.
For me, I was living in a dorm. It was an off-campus dorm, but they had a free shuttle bus for us to get to campus. Um, but one thing I was not expecting is our dorm had a lot of rules, like, and pretty intense rules. We couldn't have outsiders in. They separated the boys and the girls floor, and if I walked on the boys floor, you would get kicked out immediately. You couldn't have alcohol at all. Also, I didn't have a kitchen in my dorm building, which got kind of annoying sometimes because I would have to eat out every single day or just do microwave meals. But honestly, like I was not at my dorm ever. So it all worked out.
Did you have a roommate, Emily?
I did, yes. So since I was there for a full semester, I cycled through 3 different roommates, but just one at a time.
I think mine was, I was in student housing too, but I kind of had an opposite experience. It was pretty much no rules whatsoever. And it was just one bathroom for all the girls and guys, which I thought was kind of weird, but I was like, okay. And it was single room and off campus as well, though, with the shuttle bus, but it was pretty good. It was bigger than the dorm I lived in Platteville, so I was happy.
Yeah, my floors were heated in my dorm, so I really liked it. And then does anyone want to talk about food and meals? I feel like that's a big question.
Well, I can go real quick, I guess. But meals overall, like I can't even begin to describe them because there were a lot of meals that I never knew how fresh like something could be until I started eating it when I was over in Germany, you know. So like I had so like some pesto that was like completely freshly made, and I'm guessing we like can make it super fresh, but it's a lot harder because and a lot more expensive. While over there, one of the biggest things that I found super surprising and I loved a lot was the bread, because they had bakeries, at least where I was at, they had like 3 bakeries in my small town. And um whenever I went to the bakery, it was like like a dollar, like for US, like the whole loaf was like $1. So it was a lot cheaper in my perspective, as well as a lot fresher. And a plus was I've had probably the best pizza I've ever had in Germany, which was very weird compared to like Italy or something. But
Yeah, I can go next. Like I said, the food over there was a lot of Chinese food, but the price of living over there was a lot lower than it is here as well. So I could go out and to a restaurant and get a full course or 4 course meal for like 20 US bucks at like a super nice, like sit down 5-star restaurant, or I could just go to a shop at the end of the street and get fried rice for less than $1. I remember we had hot bread kitchens that were like right on every single street. It was a super big chain. Everybody always ate there, but you could get a loaf of bread. I think it was for like 50 cents US, which isn't really that much compared to like what it is here in the US, but it kind of gives you an idea of the difference between like the price of living.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. So like I said, I didn't have a kitchen, so I had
I
to,
guess for
so I had to eat out pretty much every day, but my college had a really nice cafeteria where you could get a meal for like $2 or $3 US. Food was a lot spicier there than here, but I really liked it. Also, a lot of people, or like a couple people I've met, did not know how to use chopsticks before going there, and they were like trying to hide the fact for a while that they didn't know how to use chopsticks. So yeah, just see if there's any like meal customs or something that you need to learn before you go, or you will embarrass yourself? And Grace, did you want to?
Sorry, I'm definitely like it's lagging so bad.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
you're fine. You're fine.
I was just gonna kind of like second the bread thing, but also water. I mean, they don't drink, as they call it, plant water. It's all carbonated water. So it's kind of like a dead giveaway if you ask for tap water that you're an American. So I kind of just started drinking fizzy water. But that's just another thing that was a little different. But
You could
Yeah.
also drink still water, even though it still has a little bit of fizz. I don't. Which one did you prefer, Grace? What was it?
but then you have to pay for it. If you say
Yeah,
tap
yeah.
water, you don't have to pay for it.
This is true.
In Korea, they didn't drink anything with meals. So I'd be eating these like super spicy dishes, and at most you could get a Pepsi. So, and then the other question we have here is, were there any unique ways you learned to connect back home and with other cultures?
I can start with this one. Being in Fiji, it's completely like compared to American culture, well, pretty much a 180. It's not a Western culture by any means, which I'm sure Emily, like Korea is totally different as well. But one of the big things was obviously I have that American culture, and it's pretty obvious when I'm in a place like Fiji. But to connect with the Fijians, the main thing was that I just kind of stayed off my phone, because I know that over there it's really easy, just everything's at home. It's really the only way to keep in touch with everybody you know and everybody you love back home. But you can't really connect and mesh into that culture that you go in if you're on your phone, even if it means like there were a lot of times like people would be taking pictures and I would just soak it all in and keep my phone down. And obviously it'd be nice to have those pictures now, but I was like living in the moment and just kind of being there rather than looking at your phone or always being online is, I'd say, probably the best way to make sure that you let that culture have an impact on your life.
I second that. Like, for me with the whole photo thing, like I really tried to take like a few photos, but then just like sit there and just really enjoy like what I'm seeing, because it's gonna be really hard or quite a bit of time before you see it again. So I second it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also agree with the phone thing. Obviously, you can get like different phone plans abroad to use data or not. I decided to stick with the one where I could only use my phone when I was on Wi-Fi. So I mean, if there was an emergency or anything, I could make calls, but I couldn't use like Instagram or anything until I got back to my dorm at night.
One thing I noticed that I didn't notice until then was Americans are very loud. Like, every time you go, I mean, I kind of noticed at the end of the trip, especially, where I was like, oh my gosh, Americans are so loud. Like on the buses, the trains, and I was kind of like, I didn't notice at first. So that was something I just kind of connected back.
Let's move on. So I think my next question is, how did you convince your family to support study abroad? Were they supportive of it from the beginning? For me, my mom freaked out, so it was a few kind of intense conversations, but then she started to support it. So if anyone else has any stories about that.
Yeah, for me, my family we're big travelers, so it wasn't that big of an issue, but everywhere I've ever traveled to has been with my family. So doing it alone was completely different. And at the airport was one of the only times I've ever seen my dad cry. It does get emotional, but kind of just knowing in the back of your head that obviously you have a phone. It's not like it's 1800s where you won't have even a way to keep in contact with your family while you're abroad. You can FaceTime, you can text, you can call. So that does make it a little easier.
Yeah, for me, my parents had like never known anyone to go to Korea. You know, you think Korea and you think North Korea, so they were pretty worried about that. What I did is I showed them a lot of videos of the campus I was going to, videos of Seoul, just kind of kept them in the loop through the whole process so they knew what was going on. Do you guys want to talk about packing? Like any packing tips? Is there anything you regretted taking or not taking?
I can start. One thing I was super, super happy I packed. My sister actually told me to pack it was measuring cups. And I didn't really think about it, but it's just a different system. So I was glad to take our measuring cups, as well as like a money belt for when I was leaving Germany to travel other countries. So it's helpful.
The main tip that I had is making sure you like roll all of your clothes, because I was able to get a lot of clothes in my suitcase and I was able to stay under the weight limit as well. But if you roll them rather than just folding them, you can fit a lot more. One of the things that I brought that I didn't need was I actually brought an Amazon Alexa, because for some reason I thought I would use it all the time every day to check the weather or something. But totally, I'm probably used it once or twice while I was there, if that. That was completely unnecessary. And I mean, it is a regret that I have now, because I could have fit maybe a couple more souvenirs, but probably go off on the electronics. You probably don't need them.
Yeah, I'd also say like don't panic too much about packing, because if there's something you really need, more than likely you're going to be able to get it abroad. But obviously check the country. Like Koreans don't wear deodorant, so I had to take like a full year's worth of deodorant because you cannot buy it there. So yeah, just check if there's anything major that you can't get there first, but more than likely you'll be able to. Oh, this is a big one. Did you guys feel safe in your host country, like walking around alone, using public transportation, stuff like that?
I felt pretty much safe. As you get there, you're a little bit like worried the first couple days and the first couple weeks. But as you spend more and more time and get more and more comfortable, it kind of eases some of the worries. Um, as like being a guy in Fiji, it was not the worst, but I'd be with a lot of girls like after hours and like catcalling and stuff. So just make sure, same as the US and honestly even Platteville, like don't walk home alone at night. Don't go anywhere that you don't know. Don't trust anyone you wouldn't trust here. It's pretty much the same thing whether you're abroad or here.
Yeah. Oh, Everett, do you want to go?
I was just gonna say, yeah, like to everything that Ryan said. Um, and since I was only in Germany for 2 weeks and London only 1 week, I really had to pick up on the transportation system, which was, I say is another question, but that's a whole beast in itself. But learning the transportation system for both London and Germany were probably the hardest, I would say, portions of the trip. But once you get it, like all of the Germans that I met over there, they all said once you understand the system, it's really, really simple. So just learning the system, and then that like helped me feel safe to be able to move around. It allowed me to stay mobile, like be able to jump on this train and then look to see, oh, this is going to come in 2 minutes. I'll just wait 2 minutes or whatever. So it really just learning your surroundings and understanding that it is a different system. And then what Ryan said, the same. Um, don't stay out super, super late and whatnot in a place you don't know.
Grace, do you want to add anything to this one?
Sure. Yeah, I actually felt really safe in the town I was in. And it was weird because I maybe saw one police officer in my town the whole time I was there. So it was like, I don't know why I felt so safe, but yeah, I guess just transportation wise. I mean, I never really had any issues in my town. It was more like when I was traveling to like Italy or France or Switzerland, like it was other places in like the big touristy parts. So, but I felt really safe. And the transportation, yeah, it was just learning it. I did actually get a ticket for being on the wrong train that my student passed.
Okay, I think she's done talking. I hope so. I can add some. So in Seoul, obviously it's a lot bigger than Platteville or Hazel Green, Wisconsin. I rarely ever felt unsafe. I would walk around alone. I would walk around at night alone sometimes. There's cameras pretty much everywhere, so people kind of just leave you alone. The public transportation was definitely like daunting at first. I looked up YouTube videos, how to ride the bus in Seoul, how to ride the train in Seoul, so that helped. But I did get lost like a lot. Like there was one week when I got lost every single day. So you just have to not be scared of getting lost because you will find your way home. If you can find a bus, you can find your way home. Do you guys want to talk about culture shock and reverse culture shock a little bit?
Yeah, I can start with that one. So culture shock is kind of like when you get to a host country and then it's a completely different culture than what you're used to, and you kind of have to go through this period of adapting into it. The easiest way to get over it for me was kind of just take in, like I said, put down my phone, take in everything around me, make sure that I try and become part of that culture and like try and get into it. Our advisor while we were there was actually really good at it. He kind of told us before we went into everything, these are the main keys of Fijian culture. If other people are sitting, you never sit or you never stand. Never touch another person. Like keep your hands to yourself. Do not be loud. That's as Grace said, Americans are very loud. So kind of speak to when you're spoken to or speak when you're spoken to. Don't interject and stuff like that. But as you spend more and more time there, it gets easier and easier. And even without an advisor, just look things up online. Make sure you don't have any faux pas. And even if you do, it's not the end of the world. Reverse wise, coming back to the U.S. was honestly probably harder than going there because I was there for, like I said, 6 months, and it's really all I want to talk about. I want to share all my experiences. Having one person that you're able to talk to about kind of eases it down because obviously you don't want to be that person who comes back from abroad and only ever speaks about studying abroad. So for me, that person was my mom. I told her, sat her down for probably 3 or 4 hours and just told her every story that came to mind, and then kind of got all that flushed out. And then I was ready to obviously tell my cool stories, but not overwhelm people with all the experiences I had.
Yeah, I would agree with like not overwhelming people. My brother still makes fun of me because I guess I talk about Korea too much, but it's kind of an inside joke now because he's done some trips too. But also the initial culture shock. Obviously, every culture is different. Mine was kind of the exact opposite of Ryan's. People do not respect personal space in Korea at all. They will shove you out of the way, and it's not rude. You just kind of have to shrug it off. It is what it is. Koreans are also very blunt. They'll tell you if they don't like your outfit or if you have a pimple or something. They'll just be like, "You look weird today," and it just is what it is. So yeah, I'd say just like don't take things too seriously. If something that you think is rude, it probably isn't to them. Maybe look up customs and stuff like that as much as you can before you go. Everett or Grace, did you guys want to add anything to that?
A lot of it was when I was over in Germany. There were some similarities as to just like the general things of being like kind of people and just like the really, really basic stuff like that we learn. But then just to ditto pretty much everybody is that over in Germany, people just aren't as loud. And if you find a loud German, then you found an anomaly. It's unless it's a drunk German, like in a pub or something. So, or pub's Irish, but yeah, they pretty much just, I don't know, just like don't do a lot of the things that we do, as opposed in regards to just how we treat each other. I guess I feel like they treat each other with a little bit more respect than like Americans. And then to ditto Emily, that Germans are pretty blunt. Also, they do say like a side comment like, I hope this doesn't hurt your feelings, but I think you look ugly today, or something like this. So they I kind of got used to that, and I actually appreciated it because I appreciate really direct communication as opposed to like just going around the point. So there are portions that I really enjoyed about the culture change, and then others where I just was like, I cocked my head and I was like, okay, well, I can go with this. To reverse the culture shock, I wasn't there long enough to like rattle off stories for 3 or 4 hours, sadly, besides Ryan, that Ryan had. But I did have some really, really cool stories. And then I guess there was a time where it just kind of weird enough to say that it just became a part of me, where I was just like, I went to Germany and I just had a ball of a time, and it's now a part of like my past. So I basically, once that happened, I didn't really talk about it as much, but if somebody brought it up, then I would be more than happy to just share whatever I could about it. So just I like what Ryan was saying about the one person and just get it all out of your system. Um, and I think that would help if I was in Germany for like 6 months, but it didn't. The reverse culture shock didn't hit me as bad as it hit the people who were over and abroad for 6 or more months.
Yeah, I also want to add, we're kind of running out of time, so I'll add this, ask one more question, and then maybe we'll be done. But I mean, I was in Seoul, which is one of the biggest cities and most densely populated cities in the world, and I came back to Hazel Green, Wisconsin, which is 1,000 people. So I went from doing something new every single day to doing essentially nothing almost every day, or maybe going to classes. So that was definitely hard. And I think when you get back, what really helped me was journaling. Journaling like while I was there, and then you can go back and read about everything you did. And then, just finding hobbies to occupy your time, because your mind's going to be racing when you come back. All right. So I guess my last question, because we're about to run out of time, is there any tips you guys would give to students interested in studying abroad?
I can go. I guess the one thing is just not to judge something based off of what you have experienced or what you're used to. I actually found myself doing that, and probably the first week I was there with when I was at a restaurant. And so in Germany, it's really common. If you go to a restaurant, you're there for 2 to 3 hours, and that's just how it is. I feel like here, Americans often don't really want to be at a restaurant for more than like an hour, give or take, unless you're having a good time. But so I was really confused when like I was done with my food and our server wasn't coming to bring us the bill. And I was like, man, like we have been sitting here for like a half hour without anything, like we're ready to go. Come to find out later that it's actually kind of rude for the server to bring you your bill, because it's kind of like them saying, oh, like you can leave now, until you ask for it. So that was kind of something I was like, I need to just not think, oh, why is she like kind of like judging the situation just based off of what I knew. So just kind of like being open-minded and ready for new ideas, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. In Korea, the servers won't come to you until you call them. So you have to like yell and like wave at them from across the restaurant. And I'm a waitress here. And if someone did that to me, I would not be very happy. But I remember like when we would look up restaurants, people in the reviews, Americans would be like, the waiters never came and checked on us. And it's like, yeah, they're not supposed to. So yeah, like Grace said, just don't judge everything from, I guess, your cultural lens. It's all going to be different.
For me, I would say the biggest tip is just to do it. Took me a long time. I was debating whether back and forth, oh, should I do this? Should I do this? We've all four of us that have studied abroad, we all had that same, oh, should I? You know, like it's so easy just to say no or put it off another semester, but just saying, okay, whatever, and just click the button, like accept, and just do it is honestly the biggest tip I can get, because there's so many people that get so close and then just put it off. But if you do it, I promise you will not regret it.
So I am gonna like triple ditto what Ryan said, because I was just like, well, maybe this isn't the summer for me to like go abroad, and I can just wait till next summer. And if I waited till next summer, it would be COVID time. And I was just like, I'm gonna have another opportunity, and yada yada yada. And I just was like, I kind of finally wrapped my head around it. I'm like, you're not going to get another opportunity to like do this. The easiest time to study, like go abroad, even in general, is while you're in college, because you can then study while you're learning a different culture and enjoying that culture and being in that place. So yeah, just the first thing is like, just jump feet first, and then just immerse yourself in it and just take the hits as they come while you're there. And if you don't understand one culture, like there was a lot of cultural differences with Germany that I didn't understand, and I asked one of my fellow like students who was German, like, hey, why do you guys do this? They're not offended by you asking them like, hey, why do you do this? And if they know like, hey, I'm from the middle of the US, like they'll be like, okay, this is why. And I found that very, very helpful. And one other huge thing, Grace touched on it about the whole restaurant thing, is that you just gotta slow down. Is that Americans just go super fast. We want the quickest meal. We just want to eat something, go. We just want an experience and then go. It's just when you're abroad, you got to be there. Ryan touched on it earlier, is just be there, enjoy it. And you just got to take it one step at a time and slow down and enjoy yourself, because you don't know when you're going to be there again. And just taking a deep breath while you're there, and just walk off the plane and enjoy yourself, sort of thing.
Is there any last little things anyone wants to add? Katie, do you have anything? Please jump in.
No, I don't think I have anything to add. Those are all really great questions and answers from everybody. And maybe I just want to add, like, you can see there's 4 students here and they all did different programs, different program types, locations. There's just a lot to choose from. And so finding the program that best suits you and your studies and your career aspirations is what you really have to do. So if you are interested in studying abroad, reaching out to us at the Study Abroad office, checking out our website, looking at the different programs we offer is a good start. But yeah, thank you to Emily for putting this together for us and all the great questions. And thank you to our panelists for volunteering an hour of your time to chat with us. I know it's really sometimes kind of nice to do these types of things because you do get to talk about those stories that, like Ryan said, you want to tell all the stories for 3 or 4 hours when you first get back. And as time goes on, you don't have as many opportunities. So it's always nice to have that to chat. But thank you guys so much. And thanks everybody who attended.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Good work, Emily. Good to see everyone.